see fence here, and that the substation itself looked quite antiquated. You can see now that not only they've put the concrete wall around it, which they have to keep repainting because people like to add graffiti, but if you look over the top of the wall, you can see that this is now an essentially new substation. Right in front of us here, we have a pole that is a wooden pole, and it picks up what's called distribution coming out of the substation, and then it goes on the poles that go behind your house to the transformers that reduce the power to the 120 volt or 240 volt power that comes into your house. The distribution lines that go from this substation out to the houses, I think they're about 7,200 volts, and they may have as much as 3 energized wires at that voltage that go to the various transformers behind people's houses. Then we have a metal gray pole here that's to the left, and that pole, I believe, is part of the transmission, which is actually what carries power in essence from a generating station to a substation. And what this entire project is to tie the substations together so that they are in a loop, so that if for some reason they lose generating power, if you will, say coming from the east, that they can feed this substation from the west. So what we're going to do first is we're going to drive along 11th Street, and we're just going to follow the route of that transmission that is now the existing transmission, and that's what they're going to be replacing. And so we're just going to go eastbound now on 11th Street until we get to about Emporia Street. Then at Emporia, it's a one-way the other way, so I'll have to start, well, actually it's the one way from this end, so we'll just continue then north on Emporia. So here we go. Over to the left, you'll see these short poles. Those poles carry telecommunications, in other words, Cox and AT&T. And then you can see over here to the right, you can see those wires are down low on these poles that are actually transmission poles that are probably going to be replaced as part of this project. And that has both Cox, it looks like, and AT&T as we go along here to our right. We're now at Waco Street, and if you look out there in front of us, you will see some wires that are up high on the poles. Those are transmission wires. The lower wires that you see with the wooden crossbucks and the like, those are probably distribution wires. They call those primaries, and as I say, they're usually about 7,200 volts on each of 3 wires, but I'm not certain that's the case here, but that's usually what they are. The transmission, I don't know for sure what the voltage is on those higher wires. It can be various voltages. The pole right in front of us with kind of the weird crossbucks, that's all transmission. That's part of the stuff that will probably be replaced. And you can see it diagonals across the street here at Main Street, and then it runs on the north side of the street. The closest pole here over to the left, right by the one-way sign, that's what we call distribution, and again, that's what goes from substations to the transformers behind your house. That's generally what it is. And as you can see, all of that transmission is now on the north side of 11th as we're now crossing Broadway. here at the intersection of Topeka and 11th Street, there is a pole to the left. It's on the northeast corner. This pole is fairly critical because it's going to be replaced, and as you can see, it's a beautifully restored home, and they're well aware, they being Evergy's, well aware of this particular situation, and they assure me that they're going to do their best not to ruin these folks' front yard. All right, now we're approaching Emporia Street, so we're going to turn and go north. The lines in question, which are going to be replaced, they're for the most part on the left side of the street here, or the west side of the street. So we're going to go north on Emporia now from 11th, and you can see those poles over to the left. They're replacing these poles because they say they're no longer compliant with the electrical code. They're not tall enough. They have different types of voltages too close together, and some of the poles are, because of their age and the ground conditions, losing some of their structural integrity, and so these are coming out as well. And we're now up to 13th Street. We're going to continue north here from 13th Street to 17th Street as soon as the traffic clears. Another issue that you can't see right now, but as we were approaching this intersection, one of these transmission poles, a wooden pole, is too close to the corner itself, and it obstructs the view of the oncoming traffic when we get ready to go across the street. And so that's why some of these poles get set back farther than, frankly, we all might like. And I just tried to pull forward to see around the pole, and I pulled out into traffic, so I had to back up. And now we wait again for the traffic. And then we have to see around this pole. I would move the camera, but it's pretty well fixed on my vehicle. So we'll sit here and watch the traffic go by. Back up. And now we wait again for this. All right, now we're still northbound on Emporia Street from 13th Street. And you can see the poles in question over on the left side here. That's the west side of Emporia Street as we proceed northbound. Now we're coming up to what's known as the 17th Street Substation. It is on our right. And when we get there, you can see that transmission comes through that substation to the west and then the south. That's the line in question. But on the other side of the substation, power comes in from the east. And the power coming in from the east is the power that the poles that caused so much trouble in the 67214 neighborhood when Evergy put those poles in. So here we are at the 17th Street sub. The metal poles over to the left, the tall ones there, that's part of the transmission project that came from 67214, and then that's also where the transmission is leaving to continue on to the Riverside Substation, which is where we started this tour. As you can see, the 17th Street Substation is a larger substation, and it's also an older substation, and it doesn't have the concrete block, which we have over at 11th and Jefferson. So at this point, I'm going to get myself kind of turned around and deal with the construction one-way streets, and then we'll go back over to 11th and Jefferson, and then we'll follow where the planned project is, the second phase of this project that will go north, or excuse me, go west and south from there. Right now we are looking down 17th Street, and you can see over on the left the tall transmission poles. That's generally the type of transmission that they're intending to put in going down the 11th Street corridor. Okay, and And so we're headed once again back down 11th Street towards the Riverside Substation, which is at 11th and Jefferson. You might want to note the condition of the roadway along here. As a part of this overall project, I would like to see the city devote some capital improvement budget to restoration of this street. I'd also like to see the telecommunications line go underground and to eliminate as many of these poles as we could. Okay, over here to our left is once again the Riverside Substation where we started, and there we go. We'll take a nice look at it here. We're looking straight into the sun, but we're from the northeast looking to the southwest. Now we're going to proceed westbound because this is the second phase of the project, and it is to tie the Jefferson Street Substation, where we're at now, together with what's known as the Central or the Central Street Substation, which is actually on the south side of the river, south of Central Street. So that's where we're headed right now. And we're, of course, entering a historic district. I'm going to turn left on Bidding, but it may well be that this transmission might go a little bit farther west, half a block to run behind the alley. That is where Evergy has replaced some transmission that used to go underneath the river just west of the Bidding Street Bridge. And so now we're south and we're in the historic district. And over to the right behind these houses you can see the existing transmission, and now you can start to see it in the park in front of Park Villa. I'm going to pull over here so traffic can get past me. So you can see that we already have some transmission here, but I don't believe it's nearly of the magnitude of the conductors that they're going to be putting in to tie the Jefferson Street sub together with the Central Street Substation. Now you can see that transmission. We're at the river that's on the west side. It diagonals across the street now to the left, on the left side here. And there's transmission and distribution on those poles. It's not real high capacity transmission. The lower wires are distribution going to houses. If you look straight ahead and out there in the distance, you will see the bridges that were built in connection with the Keeper of the Plains. A beautiful project, but I hate to see it marred by metal electrical transmission poles. If you look up here ahead of us, we're now coming up to Central and NIMS. We're going to go ahead and go eastbound here, but now you can see the Keeper of the Plains. You can see all the money we spent designing these beautiful bridges, and they're gorgeous. But then you can also see all of the power transmission. As we make the left-hand turn to go eastbound on Central, you'll see the Central Street Substation, which is what's being tied in to the Jefferson Street Substation. And then immediately to the east of it, you'll see the old KG&E generating plant, which is now used for Evergy operations, dispatching, as well as some other operations activities. But that building in and of itself is, to many of us, a historic site. You might remember years ago that Santa Claus used to be up on top of that building. And at one time it was one of the primary generating stations for Wichita. The generation was taken out of there several years ago, and as I say, it's being now converted to other uses. So now we're going to proceed eastbound on Central Street, and there you can see what's known as the Central Street Substation or Central Substation, and the red building that is just beyond that to the east. That used to be, I think, probably one of the primary generating stations for what was then Kansas Gas and Electric Company. And that should complete our tour.